The crossover. More so than any other idea out there when it comes to entertainment, this is one of the hardest to pull off. Not only because you've got the idea of two possible worlds not meshing correctly, having settings that are so opposite each other that it defies logic that they could ever truly unify, but then you've also got the problem of the characters and how useful they can be in certain situations. It's no fun to see your favorite characters meet up, only for some of them to end up completely useless to the plot. But sometimes you find a crossover that's not only well written, but also has a good balance of all parties involved. Surprising that the one we're talking about today is about two dogs. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and welcome back to Fascinating Fiction. So yeah, the Scooby-Doo Courage the Cowardly Dog crossover came out, and we're going to be talking about it. Honestly, part of me is surprised this became a thing, while another part of me isn't. Let me explain why we're here real fast. When it comes to our animated canine companions here, Scooby has existed in some shape or form since his creation back in 1969. Be it through various reboots, the spin-off series, the live-action films, and many more, we've always had the like of these meddling kids and their talking dog for a couple of decades now. Like, you know how I keep on using Optimus Prime as an example of long-lived characters who feel like they've been around forever? Yeah, Scooby here outdoes the Autobot by almost 2 decades. It doesn't really feel like it, huh? Courage, on the other hand, is a much shorter-lived franchise. Only having 4 seasons and a total of 13 episodes per season, it made its mark on the world mostly because of its surrealist humor, animation, and some horror aspects that not only made it popular among fans, but also made it stick out alongside the other shows that Cartoon Network was showing off at the time. It was something that definitely went to the beat of its own drum, and some fans loved it so much that they know certain parts of it by heart. Seriously, just how many of you know exactly what I'm talking about when I utter the words, "return the slab"? To be fair, really thinking about it, it's actually not all that surprising that there is a crossover in the first place, mostly thanks to Scooby's own history. Honestly, I think it's a little hard to come up with characters that the Mystery Gang haven't met up with yet, since everyone from Josie and the Pussycats to Batman to even Supernatural have been able to travel along and hang out with everyone's favorite talking dog. Honestly, the question here comes as to why the eventual meetup with Courage didn't happen sooner, considering their similar themes, but I'm not going to complain. As for the actual movie itself, it's actually a pretty decent balance between the two franchises, though by no means perfect. It really depends on your mindset for Scooby and just how willing you are to forgive them, just kind of brushing certain things aside to have fun. As someone whose favorite Scooby movie is probably Zombie Island and is quite used to the movies themselves deciding that it's time for real monsters, having the surreal aspects of Courage mixing it up alongside the Scooby Gang isn't too far out of reach. The actual plot of the film in this, and I'm doing my best to minimize spoilers, is that after stopping a creepy clown that has been scaring people away from the bank, Scooby ends up hearing something that causes him to lose control of his body and sending him running into the middle of nowhere. And I mean that as we cut to Courage, who's experiencing the same issues. Shortly after, the two title characters meet, with Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, and Fred coming up a little while later, eventually getting to meet up with Muriel and Eustace Bagg. The film from that point onward is pretty much the two casts interacting with each other while trying to solve the mystery of these large cicada bugs that attacked the two dogs. What strikes me the most is how well these two series seem to really mesh together, especially since it gives Muriel another bunch of characters outside of her grumpy husband and dog to work off of. Speaking of Muriel, if there's one thing I really did enjoy about this film, it was getting to hear her voice actress Thea White one last time. She actually passed away earlier this year in August, before the crossover was released. And hearing her grandmotherly tones in encouraging Courage and caring for him and the Scooby Gang just reminds you just how sweet of a voice she gave this character. We're gonna miss you, Miss White. I think one of the best things that the film is really able to do is to work in a lot of the running gags from both series into the plot without feeling bogged down. You get the classics such as running between several doors in a hallway, and Courage, Scooby, and Shaggy all dressing up in a disguise to try and trick the monster, to things like Eustace pulling out his trusty mask to scare the cowards of the group, and even Courage's trademark line of, "The things I do for love," making an appearance. However, the weakness of the film is the fact that they can't really embrace some of the weirder stuff that Courage is known for, outside of 2 instances that are never properly explained or even really acknowledged by the Scooby Gang. To make up for this fact that they can't be that wild, instead there are nods and references to just about all of Courage in the background of the mansion that they find themselves in during the film. Seriously, once you get to this point of the film, pause at random parts and look at the backgrounds. You'll see pictures and other nods to characters and events throughout the series there, such as the wood-carving alien, Fred, and the talking tree, to name a few familiar faces that people would remember. Of course, it wouldn't be a Scooby-Doo movie without at least one musical number with weird things happening during it, and we actually get 2. The second of which is by far my favorite, called The Opposite of Fear is Fun. Not only is the song bouncy in and of itself, but because of shenanigans that I won't really spoil here, the Scooby Gang and Muriel end up being transformed into a bunch of random things, and me, being the gamer that I am, couldn't help but laugh my butt off when Daphne turns into a Super Mario version of herself, complete with sound effects and the old school death animation when she's knocked down. The other song, on the other hand, is probably the most out of left field thing that this movie has up its sleeve. It's a rap song, sung by Eustace of all characters. I don't know what to make out of this at all. It's the kind of thing that makes you think for a moment just how unlike the character it is to do this. But then you also gotta think of the surreal nature of Courage, and frankly, the old grump Eustace doing a rap is up there with some of the weirdest things that came out of that series, so I'm frankly gonna give it a pass and just kind of pretend I never saw it. Overall, the movie itself is a pretty enjoyable one, having a lot of humor and fun that I've had with both franchises over the years. There are some complaints that I can understand and even agree with that I've heard, such as the fact that the original Courage creator wasn't involved in the project, or the fact that Courage himself doesn't speak anywhere near as much as he did in the original show. But I'm frankly okay with just giving it a pass. What about all of you? Have you seen the movie itself yet? Thoughts about it and what you would do to make it better? My own personal thoughts on that matter could be that they could have added a few more aspects of Courage into things just to make it a little bit weirder, especially considering other Scooby movies in the past. But even with that, I think it was a fun ride that I was more than willing to go on again and again, especially something that could be as mishandled as a crossover usually is. And of course, with us at the end of the episode, there's only one thing left to say. Take it away, boys.
Courage.